So let's get started. United States history, nationalism, and sectionalism. You can follow me on Twitter at Enrique G. Legaspi. The apps that I'm using are Notability, Explain Everything, and a few others like Scanner Pro. So let's look at the terms and names. The first term that we have here is nationalism, a feeling of pride, loyalty, and protectiveness towards your country. We have a picture of Henry Clay, and he was a strong nationalist from Kentucky who received at least 3 years of formal education and was a very skillful lawyer. He promoted the American system under the president of James Madison. And there were three main actions of the American system. 1, establish a protective tariff. 2, establish a national bank. And 3, improve the country's transportation systems. Another term that you had to read about was the Erie Canal. And basically, the Erie Canal is important because it created a water route between New York City and Buffalo, New York. James Monroe, an important president because of the foreign policy that he would invoke, was a Democratic Republican who won the presidency in 1816 with a large majority of electoral votes. The last few words to cover are sectionalism, the Missouri Compromise, and the Monroe Doctrine. And two questions that I want you to really think about are, how did economic changes contribute to growing sectionalism? And the second question is, why did the question of admitting Missouri to the Union divide the nation? Sectionalism. Now, this is almost the antonym to nationalism. Loyalty to the interest of your own region or section of the country rather than to the nation as a whole. Think of the whole East Coast versus West Coast rap battles, Tupac versus Biggie. And we also have a map here that illustrates the Missouri Compromise of 1820, which was authored by Henry Clay. Henry Clay saw the opportunity for a compromise. As you know, he was the great compromiser. He suggested that Missouri be admitted as a slave state and Maine as a free state, and this would keep the United States in balance. Congress passed Clay's plan. It kept the balance of power in the Senate, and it called for slavery to be banned from the Louisiana Territory, which was recently acquired for $15 million, which is basically 3 cents an acre. One of the most important documents, the Monroe Doctrine. In December 1823, James Monroe, the 5th President of the United States, issued a statement. It said that the Americas were closed for further colonization. He warned that European efforts to reestablish colonies would be considered dangerous to our peace and safety. Basically, he's saying is, leave us alone. So tonight's homework is going to get you to think about this question. So in your inquiry, this is the essential question. What was the purpose of the Monroe Doctrine? We went over the terms and names: nationalism, Henry Clay, American system, the Erie Canal, James Monroe, sectionalism, Missouri Compromise, and tonight we're going to closely examine the Monroe Doctrine. It is very important to understand this illustration. This map is essential for you to understand the balance that was necessary to compromise both the free states and the slave states. As you notice, the darker green are the free states and territories, and the lighter green is the slave states in the South. Now this question is asking, how did the Missouri Compromise address the issue of slavery in U.S. territories and future states? So now it's time to wrap it up. Terms and names using graphics, and I hope you've made a diagram in your notes, or maybe even use an app like Poplet or Notability like I have to create a diagram. Now the follow-up question is asking, which of these are still important for national unity? So, in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, evaluate. Think of which element is most important to keep the nation united. Is it transportation? Is it establishing a national bank? Is it having a stronger federal government? Ask yourself. Now, I would just like to take the time to read over the main ideas. How did the Erie Canal help the nation grow? 3B. How did the Missouri Compromise resolve a conflict between the North and South? And last but not least, what was the main message of the Monroe Doctrine and toward whom was it directed? And for all of you superstar scholars, in an editorial or a political cartoon, give your opinion of either the Missouri Compromise or the Monroe Doctrine. Thank you. When preparing for the next lesson, it is important that you write a summary paragraph that uses the section's main idea as the topic sentence. The paragraph should identify the things that contributed to a feeling of nationalism. And again, nationalism has to do with pride, loyalty, and protectiveness. And the tensions that over time contributed to sectionalism. In your textbook, you'll find these same questions, and I really think it is helpful if you set up a graphic organizer, and on your one side you have causes, and on the other side you have effects. Here are your main ideas. Good luck.